Welcome to the second season of Operational Harmony, balancing business and mental well-being, where we achieve goals without sacrificing peace. Our host, Nikki, is the owner and founder of Nikki's Office, where she specializes in social media management, business audits, and business coaching. Her journey through mental health and entrepreneurship not only brings awareness, but also equips her with valuable coping skills. This unique experience offers a fresh perspective on approaching challenges and innovating in different ways. Let's introduce our guest.
Alan Kaplan. I run an 8-figure e-commerce business that's also focused on food distribution, and I'm in the process of launching a systematic, fully automated trading fund that deals in futures.
So on the business side, how have you gotten there? Because you didn't just wake up one day and ta-da, all those things were ready to go.
So I got to take you back to around 2012 or so. I was working about 80-hour weeks and living in the New York City area, commuting. My day was very monotonous routine, and it just started with me hopping on a bus, going across the river. I lived in New Jersey, if you're familiar with it, but lived in New Jersey, went from a courthouse to an office. I practiced law at the time, and back to Jersey, back to another office, rinse, repeat every day. And it, on its face, it's fine, right? So you have a regular job and you're making somewhat okay money, but you're also, it's a massive struggle. You're doing a lot of hours, heavy workload. I mean, there's just a lot of pressure building up behind the scenes. So I just said to myself, look, I got to find something else. And I started experimenting. One thing I started experimenting with was e-commerce. I've done that before when I was in college years ago. And I went to my wife and I said, look, let's try this out. She just recently got her MBA. And we started looking up suppliers. We just started opening accounts with all sorts of suppliers, getting our hands on anything we could to try to make a business out of it. And eventually you amass enough suppliers, eventually something's got to give, right? So you narrow it down and you find what categories you're targeting, or not so much targeting, what categories are working for you. And we started just simply drop shipping, sending orders to these suppliers, listing them online, and building it up from there. At the time, in addition to the 80 hours that I was doing, I also added this to my plate. So don't ask me if I have any hobbies. I don't. Not at that time anyway. So in addition to those 80 hours a week, we added this was our side hustle / hobby / additional source of income. And eventually it started taking off. It started picking up some traction. And it got to the point where we both had to unwind our day job. So I had actually 2 offices, a front office and a back office that I was working at. And I had to unwind them both. And that took some time. And we had to focus on the few categories that worked for us. And one of them was mainly groceries. So in a sense, we were one of the first pioneers in e-grocery. And at that time, it was almost unheard of, right? Groceries getting shipped directly to your door. Now it's a common thing. But going back all those years, it just wasn't done. So we focused on that. And I started analyzing some data, looking at where we're shipping to, what's going to make the most sense, and how do we optimize this best? Well, the data led me to concluding that we have to move out of the Northeast. We have to optimize better. We need better logistics going on, because it turned into a business where we went from just drop shipping it to getting comfortable with stocking it. And it went from just placing orders to your suppliers from your apartment to getting a storage unit to storing stuff in my office. And eventually you're stocking inventory, getting better pricing, getting more momentum and velocity going. And so the data led us to Texas, where we just picked up, moved halfway across the country, pretty short notice, just a few months notice. And the blocker there was just wrapping up the law practice, wrapping up all these loose ends that we had to do before we finally made that move. And eventually you just graduate to different levels. So By the time we were in Texas, we had to graduate to working with a third-party logistics center, which is basically just a fulfillment center where you set up the inventory. It wasn't very big. It was about 20,000 square feet or so. And it actually had some it had some challenges and had to downsize. So eventually, I ended up with my own warehouse, about a 10,000 square foot warehouse that I signed a lease on. I knew nothing about warehousing, and it showed. It definitely showed. Okay. I did not instill any confidence in the staff whatsoever, but it had to be done. Okay. So here we have this white collar guy, just his entire smarts came from whatever he learned in school and everything like that. And here we are with the warehousing staff, and they're pretty street smart. They can sense when you don't have confidence. They can sense when you don't know what you're doing. And one of the pivotal things that we did was we were allowed to, because the fulfillment center over there was going through its own struggles, we were allowed to hire away the warehouse manager there. Okay. And we were one of the major accounts. So the transition wasn't too difficult. Okay. But it was one of those things that we had to do. And we took it from there. We started innovating. We started figuring out how to ship out glass, how to ship out chocolate in the middle of summer. And that was a challenge I didn't see coming because, I mean, Nikki, if you've ever visited Texas, it is hot here. It is beyond hot. Okay.
I lived in Fort Worth for 2 years, and I can tell you I did not go outside in the summer.
Yeah. So here we are. We're figuring out how to ship chocolate in the summer. We knew it could be done, or at least I was pretty confident it could be done. Question was, how do you engineer that? And when you do that, you're capturing a lot of market share, because what does e-com do? E-com does not ship meltables in the summer. So we were able to do that. And eventually it grew bigger and bigger as we started optimizing more. A warehouse in Texas extended into another warehouse in Pennsylvania. That was around 2017. The following year, then we launched in California and Los Angeles, because that was strategically important for us. And then the warehouse in Pennsylvania grew from just under 10,000 square feet to 30. And that's actually our main facility right now. Long story short, I ended up with warehouses on the East Coast and West Coast, integrated the Dallas-Fort Worth warehouse that we had, the Dallas-Fort Worth area warehouse that we had. It was actually in Denton. Integrated that into Pennsylvania. And here I am operating remotely from Texas, and we're running these warehouses. We're running warehouses on the East Coast and West Coast. So those were the good times. There were obviously a lot of pains and struggles, and I don't know if you want me to get into that now, but there were some serious challenges there. All right. And a lot of learning I had to do and figure out what is my leadership style? How are we going about fixing problems? It just doesn't happen on its own. So that's it in a nutshell. On the e-commerce side, we did not grow into an 8-figure business overnight. It just doesn't happen. But within a few months, it did become a 6-figure business. When we moved to Texas, it was a 7-figure business, low 7 figures. I think about 1.2 million or so is what we were doing in sales. Eventually, you just grow into that kind of level as you work out your supplier relationships, work out your logistics and operations and finance and everything like that.
So my important question, and I think this is going to lead us into the mental health stuff maybe a little early, but what happened during COVID?
Oh, well, what happened during COVID was we were in a situation where, and everybody was in this situation, every business had this challenge. You were not allowed to work as an employee. You were ordered to stay home, yet you want your product, you want your stuff. And a business that was essential to operating during COVID was allowed to stay open as long as they provide all those protections. So during COVID was one challenge. There were other challenges pre-COVID, just right before. But during COVID, for me, it was just completely no sleep. I was living a corrupted wish at that time. For the employees, They had challenges in figuring out, well, where are they going to get a sitter? Daycare centers are closed. If you're dropping off your kid to the YMCA for childcare, well, that's closed too. They relied on their churches. That's closed. Everything was closed, yet everybody wanted their stuff at the same time. So we had to figure a lot of stuff out during COVID. And in observing a lot of the staff and cycling through everyone, unfortunately, one of the things that I saw was there was a lot of anxiety, and it's not the type of anxiety where they're just anxious every day, but the anxiety was at the commitment level that I noticed. When an employer tells the employee, you must work 40 hours a week, this is your shift, and then they're juggling around their schedule, and it creates sort of like a self-fulfilled prophecy for them where they just drop the ball, they can't commit to it, and they have to drop out, or they disappoint, and maybe they get fired. In cycling through all these employees, one thing that occurred to me was, all right, we're going to run out of employees. Okay. All right. Our reputation already took a hit because we're looked at as monsters, but we have stuff to do. We have targets to meet, and we need to figure out what to do here. And one thing that I came up with, which boggled, HR had a field day with me because they didn't even know how to fill out the forms after this policy was announced. Supervisors had a field day with me. But one thing that I introduced into that program was a flex time program. All right. Because I had to ask myself, all right, I don't particularly like working in the warehouse. Nobody wakes up and says, I want to work at a warehouse when I grow up. Right. It's not realistic. Frankly, nobody really likes their job. I don't know. What percentage of people do you think actually like the job they go to? It's got to be north of 90% probably. So one thing that we created was what's called a flex time program, where if you work at least 4 hours in any given day, you make up your own schedule. All right. You make up your own schedule. There's some give and take there in terms of benefits and everything, but you make up your own schedule and the pressure is off. Okay. You don't have to work. You don't have to meet your 40 hours. You're not going to get fired if you don't work 40 hours. You can come in and schedule yourself in for 4 hours. All right. The burden is, of course, on HR, but that's their job, right? Their job is not to have pizza parties. Those are stupid. All right. We're dealing with adults, right? Their job is not to have fun little newsletters and be out of touch with the needs of the staff. So in observing them, one thing I rolled out was a flex time program where we keep basically a Rolodex of people that we can call in or they can schedule themselves in, and they would be working their shifts. And we'd allocate based on their competencies. We'd find them something to do. We'd find them either they're working in inventory fulfillment or receiving, something like that, something along those lines. So long story short, once the pressure was off, once that burden was off, once they didn't have to make all those excuses with the typical family emergency nonsense, what we noticed was they didn't work exactly 40 hours, but close enough, 35, 38 hours. All right. And they became productive. And then they started asking, well, what do I have to do for a raise? I want to get out of the flex time program. I want to get into full-time, or I want to get into part-time. And then we set the parameters. We give them a roadmap for more raises and more benefits and set the threshold for them to be more productive. So we went from massive turnover in mandating the traditional 40-hour shift to saying, all right, it's flex time for you guys. You make up your own hours. You call the shots here. And it naturally evolved into this kind of system where they're taking it upon themselves to make this commitment. All right. And their coworkers, instead of trying to figure out ways how to sneak out of work, they're just very upfront about it. I'm off tomorrow. I need off tomorrow. All right. They're much more secure. They're much more confident in what they're doing, create a much more productive environment as a result.
I think you learned something that some people forgot to learn. Everybody learned during COVID, or at least a lot of businesses learned during COVID, that if their people were at home doing the work at home, the work was getting done faster, cleaner, whatever. And then they're all, after COVID's done, they're all like, no, you have to come back to the office. We know you hate it here. We know you're going to not work as much and it's not going to be as clean, but you have to come back to the office.
Well, it's a question of why, right? So what I learned about myself is I adopt a first principles approach into my management style. So it's a question of why. Is it because the owners have a lease to pay? Is it because we have to fill up the office space, or is it more than that? And we had other departments. So for example, I had an office in Century City. It was a content team. And the secret sauce for this content team was they have to get together for pitch day on a Monday, right, first day of the week, and pitch ideas. And that required them to be together. It was a little bit difficult with COVID, and that team unfortunately collapsed as a result. That they just weren't able to bring in that kind of energy and pitch the way they needed to pitch as a result on those Mondays. But just to mandate, you're coming back to the office, well, why? What is the KPI? What exactly dropped off is the question. I'm not advocating for everyone staying remote, but you have to pick and choose the reasoning for it. We have plenty of remote people, analysts, and so forth. It would be, to put them in an office, it would actually be a burden on me at this point. HR, for example, offsite. We had HR in the office. They're easily corruptible, easily interfere with people, my people anyway. We take them offsite, write an email, send a Slack message, do anything you want, just do not come in the office, do not interfere in the operation. All right. Yeah.
No, my sister's company, which I don't know what they do because it's none of my business, but all of their KPI said that the people were working better at home, and they brought them all back to the office.
Okay. Why did they do that? Any idea?
No, my sister still doesn't know, and it still pisses her off. all I have to do is say, "How was your day today?" And I had to go in today. So
Yeah, we have software developers. I've never needed software developers in the same room, but at the same time, I found it very unproductive that they're just communicating through project management boards. And instead, my attitude towards that was like, look, all of you speak English, right? Here's Slack, write each other a message. Don't just go into submitting tickets and waiting 4 hours for a response. So
yeah.
It's because that could be done more so now on Slack than before. You don't have to send an invite, right? You don't have to send an invite for a Zoom call. Here you go, Slack huddle, calling a meeting on 5 minutes notice. All right. It really just depends on the reasoning. Obviously, look, if you're manufacturing, people need to come to the factory. You're not going to build a jet working out of the office, right?
No, and true to point, I see a therapist, and I hated seeing a therapist over Zoom. Technically, it wasn't Zoom. It was whatever their thing is, but it's just like Zoom. So whatever.
Right.
But I hated seeing a therapist over Zoom. Like, you don't get the same, I don't know, whatever. So I love being able to go back into the office.
Like the same connection, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, there are like an assistant of any kind probably doesn't need to be in the office. I say probably because there are a few things that may mean they have to be. But I am not a VA, but I do some of the things that a VA would, working together with the people that I work with. And no, I don't ever have to be in person with them. We have meetings, we talk, we communicate. Open communication helps in some of those places where it's a bit weirder.
Yeah.
But
so why bring people into the office when the KPIs are indicating it's either just as good if they're remote? And look, I'm a proponent of first principles analysis. All right. Look to what the common truths are, remove the assumptions, and build the system from there. If you're just doing it to fill up space because you have 5 years to go in your lease or something like that, why are you doing this? Sublet it out. All right.
And your people will be happier because they're doing what they want. I mean, they're still working, but they're at home, so they feel more comfortable.
Yeah, I mean, look, picture someone coming out of LA. I lived in LA for a few years, and we have a warehouse there. And look, traffic is horrendous. All right, gas is $5 a gallon, $6 at times. And I remember I rented, just for interviewing, it wasn't a WeWork, it was one of those, but I rented a conference room, and my warehouse was 15 miles away. It took me to monitor the traffic patterns to see when I'm going to finally pay my on-site visit there. and I deferred it for 2 days because of the traffic. When I finally got there, I timed myself. It took me 1 hour on that highway to travel 15 miles. I literally drove 15 miles an hour, all right, on average. And I was not in the slow car. I was I think I was in a sports car at that time. But it wasn't me. It was traffic. But if you're in a densely populated area like that, you have to take into that account that this commute that you have people driving to, the burden that they have to exert on themselves just to get to work and leave, that all has consequences to it, right? But you have to really examine whether it's worth it. Are you better off now that we have a remote environment and technology got better? Is it worth it, right?
And my sister does not live in the middle of the country. She doesn't live in Texas or California. She lives where you left because of... She's up there in the Northeast.
Oh, she lives in the Northeast. Yeah. So she lives in the New York area somewhere? Yeah, okay. Yeah, because everybody, I would imagine even the top senior level executives are taking that into account. I hope so, because I remember my commute just going from downtown New York City to Midtown. I'm sitting there with a calculator on the subway going, I'm wasting about 2 weeks of my life just on this little commute per year. That's vacation. That's 80 hours a week I'm wasting. Yeah, so it's just one of those things. It just requires analysis. It's not a yes or a no. It's let's go over these facts. Okay, are we better off? Are we more competitive with people working remote or a hybrid situation? Or is it all hands on deck, everyone to the office? It just depends. It really just depends. Yeah, but the COVID times were something. Pre-COVID, that was a different phase. And that was a phase where everything nearly collapsed. I almost had to shut my doors down on that one because all the processes broke down. And as a result, I spent the entire summer of 2019 fixing everything. I actually slept in the office of my own warehouse for about 3 weeks, just making it happen. Yeah, that was something. And by the time everything got fixed, by Labor Day, 3 months later, or well, I guess about 6 months later, COVID broke out and we were on the stay-at-home order. Here we are. The Flex Time program is going quite strong. I borrowed it from the restaurant model. If a lot of restaurants, especially in densely populated areas, you might have a very small restaurant with a huge roster of servers to call on to fill in. So we kind of borrowed it from there. But the ironic result of that was these flex timers behaved as though they were full-time. Many of them made it to full-time status, and we didn't have to leverage our Rolodex to call people in. We don't have that kind of chaos that I expected. We have the opposite result. And it's really just it's the mindset, just taking off the pressure.
A lot of places for me, I have worked my own business for what I feel like is forever. But I do remember when I had a regular job, like working at Walmart or working as a line cook. A lot of times people will say, well, if you can't come in for the whole 8 hours, then you have to call out. If you're trying to leave early, you're not dependable or whatever.
Right. Yeah. Well, I guess that's maybe like a more of an authoritarian style of leadership, but I have to observe the behavior, right? Because there are only so many people in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. That's the culture you're dealing with, right? And chances are if they signed up for the job and they started coming in, they're coming in good faith. And you kind of, for me, I'd rather build a system around that, right? So, and I see a lot of middle managers, and I had middle managers before that their attitude, at least when it came to explaining stuff to me, was, oh, they're all lazy. Everyone's lazy.
I hate that excuse so much.
And yeah, as a matter of fact, I let go of middle managers. I promoted employees to supervisory levels and then promoted them from there. So I don't even hire from the outside anymore. If I can avoid it, I don't do that. And that's really why, because when they tell you, look, you have to make 8 hours a day, or if you don't come in tomorrow, don't come in at all. What are they really doing, right? Are they making their lives easier, or do you think they're giving an analysis to the higher ups and saying, we have this kind of pain point, we need to figure something out? No, they don't. They just say, okay, well, these employees are not coming in. They're all lazy. Fire them, rehire them. It's just very nearsighted kind of thinking, because you have to kind of observe the culture. We had a different culture in Pennsylvania. It's not LA, it's not Texas, and we had to build around that. So yeah, it's one of those things. And I assume it was the middle manager putting all that pressure on you to come in and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. At Walmart, it was the one who didn't like me because she was a manager in training when I got hired. And she was the sixth person to come over and try to teach me how to do something. And I was just kind of, you know what? I have been told how to do this already. Please leave me alone. She did not appreciate that very much, but good gravy. Like, one person teach me how to do something and I will be fine. I don't need everybody in here telling me how to do it their way. Especially since the one who was just about to try to teach me was left-handed and I'm not. She'd have messed up my brain to high heaven.
She taught you the left-handed approach to
she turned the stupid little machine around that you use to take the film out of the cartridge, and I'm just like, no, I refuse. I'm not doing this. Yeah.
Right. So
she later, like a couple months later, became the manager. And that was a wonderful experience. Prejudice survives.
Yeah. Lately, I heard like companies like Walmart, they would offer you a top rate based on a condition that you perform, and the threshold is practically insurmountable, right? So, for example, like a pick rate. They would say, all right, you'll get $31 an hour, which is their top rate, assuming you have 100% pick rate for everything. Well, all right, if that works and enough people achieve that target rate, well, guess what they're going to do, right? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I worked in the photo lab, obviously, since I was picking film, but my manager decided that the way she was going to get me to leave was to start scheduling me for like 15 hours a week. I walked up to the store manager and I went, I was hired as full-time. She's trying to give me part-time hours. Please fix it. And he walked over to her and said, you can't do that. If she was hired as full-time, you have to give her full-time hours. And I was, because that was the agreement I had with the lady who hired me, the manager. So.
Yeah. We had an employee, the manager tried getting rid of this individual. The tactic he used was to rotate them into different departments and just fail them on every evaluation and eventually terminate them. Now, he was confronted. The employee scheduled office hours with him and said, I know what you're trying to do to me.
I don't like drama in my life, but if you have drama and you want to share it with me, let's go.
So I will listen to that. Here I am, the owner of the business. I'm the one cutting the checks, and you have a middle manager who I'm also paying, deliberately rotating someone that I'm also paying, that's also going to either underperform or fail, and I'm paying for the whole circus that he created.
Yep. That's why I say, Walmart supposedly has a thing where if you are a manager in training at one store, you're not allowed to become the manager of that store. They're supposed to ship you off to a different store. Okay. Well, she had buddy privileges with somebody and got hired at our store. And I literally heard her. I have bat ears. Nobody thinks I do, but whatever. But I literally heard her talking to somebody else and was like, I'll probably have her gone in the next 6 months. And that was me. So,
yeah,
those are the people you don't want to work for. Those are the people you don't want to talk to.
But those are the people that end up in middle management. And yes. it becomes office politics at that point, right? Where they're not working toward achieving targets. Look, I'm sure the actual owners of Walmart, like Sam Walton and his family and all that.
I am not one of. Even with my last name. Okay, I am not one of them Walton.
Right. Did they ask you when you signed up?
My last name is Walton.
I know. During the Walmart interview, did they ask you? Are you related?
Actually, they did. They have asked me anytime. Yeah. I got asked that when I went for an eye appointment.
You should have said, shh, I'm with corporate.
Don't tell anyone. Stopped me getting fired the way I got fired.
But yeah, but do you really think the owner, do you think they're saying, okay, we're going to mess around with Nikki for 6 months, then let her go? No, they're looking at top line, bottom line. They're looking at making things work. I have a problem with middle managers. I got to be very frank. I've come into so many where they kind of piggyback off of their underlings or coworkers, and they just earn these positions that they don't deserve. So, and I caught on to that, whether it was quick or not, I don't know. But the practice that I'm using right now is just promote from within, avoid middle managers if you can avoid them, because they're coming in with their own agenda, right? They're here to make their life easier. They're not here to boost profits. They're not here to, I mean, what are they here for, right? They're here to make sure that they get their raises, even if it means throwing a lot of others under the bus, even if it means a company suffering losses. And I'm not for that.
Yeah. So good news.
Yeah.
Because it is joyful news to me anyway. That lady lasted a year as a manager.
Yeah.
Then she got moved to either the Vision Center. I think it's the Vision. She got moved to the Vision Center, and then she was let go.
Yeah.
Because she wasn't forming.
The truth comes out, right? Yeah. So I actually had to let go of a marketing manager because it became just so apparent that she's relying on underlings. And I mean, like, what, 2-3 months in, I spoke to other CMOs and they're like, wow, at least she didn't string you along for 18 months. I'm like, it's because I've been through that through that kind of process with middle managers. Unfortunately, like to me, they know the right words to say. They know what to put down on the resume. They know how to answer a questionnaire, and they get their job. And that's unfortunately a part of the process is really being a hawk on them. And I asked the subordinates that report to her, to look, report anything that's out of the ordinary, okay? Because she's supposed to be performing, all right? And what was out of the ordinary was she wasn't familiar with many e-commerce policies. She wasn't familiar with just general processes at all. You know, just relying on the underlings and trying to collect a 6-figure check as a result. And that's just unfair.
Yeah, no. I'm not letting you steal my work. If I know the policies and procedures, I know them, but so should you if you are my manager.
Yeah, but if a manager tells you, okay, Nikki, so what do you do here? Oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I knew that. Oh, yeah, well, just carry on with the rest of your day.
No, thank you. No, people usually know me, and they can name me pretty quickly. I am a little bit loud, so people usually get to know me. Not in a bad way. I'm just, why do they have a podcast? Force people to listen to me. No. I say the thing. Not always the only thing on my mind, but I tend to, oh, wait, you want to come teach me how to do this. You're the 6th person who's done it. You're left-handed. Can you please not? Because you're going to blow my brain apart.
So what would you tell the Walton family? All right. If you had some airtime with them, what would you tell them?
Please choose a different last name.
No. You know exactly what I mean.
I know. Just make sure when you have a policy that says you can't be a manager at the same store you were in training at, make sure it's being fulfilled, because that's how I got screwed. She didn't like me because when I was in training, I didn't allow her to teach me how to do a left-hand thing when I'm right-handed.
Yeah, but it makes sense, right? It makes sense for someone to transfer to another location. You don't want them exacting retribution on coworkers, getting even with someone that...
Yes, because not only did I get written up, because like I said, I'm loud, so customers heard me telling her to please go away, but she yelled at me, like she blew her top, yelled at me. I didn't even know who she was, okay? But she got written up as well. So yes, she had a vengeance out for me, and that's how I got fired.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Oh.
Well,
okay.
What can you do?
In some situations in life, there is absolutely nothing you can do but walk away. Did I walk away gracefully, or did I walk away mad? I can tell you, I walked away mad because I should not have been fired.
Well, she shouldn't have been there in the first place, right?
No.
So, exactly.
So I shouldn't have been fired. And the customer themselves came out of the building and were like, the husband turned to the wife and was like, "Are you happy now?" And she was like, "Yeah, I believe I am." And if it hadn't have been for another friend of mine grabbing me by the back of the shirt, I was walking towards them. Because you just got me fired and now you're happy about it. Thanks a lot. You're so good. You should be so proud of yourself.
Yeah. Do you have any idea how specifically she bypassed that system?
Well, she wrote, so you have to get written up 3 times in order to get fired at Walmart.
No, I mean, how does she specifically end up getting a management position at that location? Is it that easy?
I don't know. Like I said, she was just buddy with somebody, and they were trying to fill the photo lab thing in a hurry, management thing in a hurry, and they should not have gone with her.
Yeah, so they gave her a waiver. Yeah, they gave her a waiver.
Anybody else that was working there at that time, even if they'd have gotten promoted from sitting down or from doing what they were doing to being a manager, would have been 100% better than her.
Well, but you are better off for it, right?
Yeah, I am now. I wasn't at the time. That was back in the early 2000s. So no, I'm not still like holding a grudge or whatever, but kind of sounds like it when I talk about this because it's kind of annoying and it pisses me off all over again that I got fired because somebody didn't like me.
Yeah, so there are 2 types I don't like. HR is one of them. I don't like that department. All right. Mainly because they like to meddle in things that they don't belong in instead of carrying out HR functions, which they often drop the ball on. And middle managers just play by their own rules. They're sucking up to the bosses. They're very authoritative to the ones that have to report to them and rely on them. And my experience, I can't speak for everybody, but my experience is they love lying. They're just pathologic liars, all of them. But it's just the way it is. That they're acting in their own interests. All right, definitely not in the interest of the company. All right, and it just creates a horrible situation. They demonize the top execs to the underlings. They basically try to communicate to these employees.
Yeah, it's basically. Yeah, it's basically this is what's going to happen, and you have there's nothing you can do about it. When actually the fake write-up she gave me before that, where she kind of went around to everybody and was like, "What do you dislike about Nikki?" and wrote me up for all of it. That shouldn't have been a write-up. I should have had recourse for that, but I wasn't told how to do it.
All right.
And then, of course, the final one.
That's HR for you. That's the other problem. Like we said, HR and middle managers, for some reason, there's a stigma about HR that they only work in company interests. I disagree with that too. From my experience, they are in their own way. They are sort of middle managers also, but they have their own agenda. They just have their own agenda, and it's a problem. That they need to be. They shouldn't be buddy with anyone. They should really be neutral. They should explain to employees, all right, these are your rights, these are your obligations. They should definitely tell the employer, hey, look, these are the boundaries. You can't overstep them, and make recommendations. But they're not doing that. They're kind of doing their own thing. I heard of HR departments dropping the ball on healthcare benefits, right? Just missing deadlines. There's one HR department where during COVID, in her infinite wisdom, the head of HR, this is a different company, but she instituted a no carpooling rule during COVID and fired 2 essential employees because they came to work together, right, in the same car. You know,
the husband and wife?
No, they're just neighbors. Neighbors. I mean, just neighbors decided to carpool together. It's just, you got to think through the policies, okay? You just got to think it through. You can't just be like, all right, this is the way it's going to be. It's my way or the highway. My experience with HR is just too much meddling. Nobody wants to see those newsletters. They want to know.
Except the one place that I've seen, again, I have not worked a corporate job. I've never been in the situation of that. The most corporate job I ever worked was Walmart, and I wasn't in corporate. But I hear stories all the time about people getting their food stolen all the time.
By
HR is like, we don't handle the food with that. But as soon as they put like a laxative from their doctor or hot sauce that they would actually eat in their food and it upsets the person who stole the food, all of a sudden it's a big deal. And why would you try to poison your coworker? I wasn't trying to poison my coworker. That's my food.
Well, it becomes hostile work environment. It becomes a question: is this now a hostile work environment? That's what they care about. That's the question they need to answer, right? So if you booby trap your own food, you're not allowed to booby trap stuff. You're not allowed to do it. But yeah, I don't think they should be responsible for someone's lunch. I mean, that's kind of annoying to come into work and get to be a detective, getting to the bottom of it. Post a sign or something.
A couple of the stories, everybody knew who was stealing it, but nobody would say anything because he was a manager and was in good with HR.
All right. Well, the proper, and this is hindsight 2020 here, but the proper course of action would have been hostile work environment, taking it up with HR, because this person is interfering in others' personal space, making them uncomfortable. So, and just bring it up, just call them out on it. I've never heard of a manager steal anyone's food.
Yeah. Apparently the guy's wife was a chef and was making him really good lunches, and somebody kept stealing them all. He put up a camera in the room where the lunches were so that he could see it. And the dude walks to the refrigerator, picks through all of the lunch bags in there, picks this dude's lunch bag out of the back and walks back out with it.
Yeah, I heard of them trying to disassociate from the rest of the staff, just having lunch elsewhere on their own terms instead of, not even bonding, just have lunch in the same lunchroom. So why do you have to be weird about it?
Well, because he's stealing the lunch from somebody else. You can't be caught eating in front of him.
It's that guy. I'm talking generally speaking, but yeah, that explains it, because the employee has a wife who's a chef. He's taking advantage of that situation.
So let's talk about mental health. So you said earlier that during the part where you were building up the business, that there were some hard things you had to get through. Do you want to share those?
So, well, personally, I got into how everything fell apart, right? So when I say everything fell apart, I meant everything fell apart. So one day I'm in LA giving a client a tour, scheduling. I was actually invited to a yacht party. I had to firm it up with them. But anyway, 2 days later, I'm in Pennsylvania. Take a 2-3 hour drive to Pennsylvania from New York City. And here we are transitioning from a small warehouse to a much bigger one. And, that took a deep toll on me. So first of all, I did mention I had to sleep 3 weeks in my own business, all right, in the office of my warehouse. That is something, in retrospect, I really don't even know what the correct answer would have been looking back on it, but it's something that I felt I had to do at that time, because it's either do this or suffer the consequences and you're left with nothing. All right. You're left with absolutely nothing. The processes just fell apart. It was a different culture. What worked in California did not work in Texas. What worked in California and Texas did not work in Pennsylvania. It just all fell apart. And at the same time, my own manager there, he was going through his struggles. His mom was admitted to hospice. She lived in the UK. He had to fly back there. So he had to drop everything and go there. So here I am. I flew in there. It must have been 9-10 o'clock at night. And I'm just going over everything. Going from I looked at the new warehouse. Everything's on the floor. I didn't get a chance to look at the existing one that we have, the original one, which was just a few blocks away because it was so late. But there was a lot to do. And I'm thrusted into this culture that is very unfamiliar to me. Very different group, very rough. And I'm just rebuilding everything from the start. All right. And I had to keep my finger on the pulse. It was one of those things where there was a reason why I slept there. It wasn't because I couldn't afford a motel room. At least I could have afforded that at that time. But I had to keep my finger on the pulse. I had to figure out, okay, if I have an idea that popped in my head at 11 o'clock at night, I want to execute it. All right. I want to be there. Right. I want to be there before the first person goes in and way after the last person leaves, because I need to analyze stuff. So that was a major struggle. All right. A lot of people were working their 9-to-5s, enjoying life. Here I'm basically rebuilding from the ashes here. And before you know it, then COVID hits. All right. Here I am, sleepless days, sleepless nights. Just, I can't even tell you. I mean, wow, it must have been way over 80 hours a week that I was working. But it was one of those things that life kind of thrusts you into, right? I never asked for COVID to break out, totally outside of my control, but I had to roll with the punches, right? I had to work on recruiting. That was me working round the clock, 24/7, practically 24/7, bouncing around between airports because I have other warehouses and other obligations. But just bouncing around, working around the clock, that takes a toll on you. That definitely takes a toll on you. It was to the point where you're almost like a zombie, just kind of going through the motions there, just laser focused on what you have to do. It was some corrupted wish I was living, honestly. That was, if you can imagine this corrupted wish where, okay, you have a mansion, you have a garage full of $100,000 cars, and you're just bouncing around from one motel room to another. Okay. Not enjoying any of the fruits of your labor, just running through everything just like that. That took a major toll. Definitely took a toll on my health. It probably aged me a good 5 years, if not 10. Yeah, it was quite a problem. There were a lot of health consequences as a result that I'm still working through. But then it's a question of, all right, well, was there an alternative? What was the alternative then? You're kind of put in this position where you have no choice, right? I had to live through my own trauma on that one. I will say I'll never repeat that ever again.
So
Way too old for that. But it did take me through. It was pretty traumatic in that sense, and it shows up in the blood test. It shows up in the weight gain.
So the lesson that you should learn from that is when you completely ignore your own body for weeks at a time and concentrate only on whatever it is you're concentrating. Months at a time. Sorry, months. That's even worse, my dude. So months at a time. It's karma is boomerang. And I don't mean that in a bad way in this case anyway. I mean that as you're putting all the energy into your business and none of it into you. Now it's going to boomerang, and now you're going to end up with health problems that are harder to get rid of than just a cold.
You're basically putting a debt on your body. That you're putting a debt on everything by focusing on that. Now, it's not to say that you shouldn't put somewhat of a debt on, but you shouldn't ignore it either.
You should be careful about how much debt you rack up on your body.
Exactly. So you can't say, well, screw it, I'm not doing this.
No, it doesn't tend to work that way.
That has some consequences too.
I have had a body that has hated me since birth, basically. I've had glasses since I was 5, and I've had psoriasis since I was 5. Psoriasis actually longer than the glasses, really. Because they finally figured out my problem with high stepping when I went to kindergarten to get my eyes and ears checked to see if I could go to school. And they were like, yeah, she needs glasses before she comes back here. And my mom's like, glasses? Is that what she needed? Because military hospital. Yay, military hospital. Okay, they did do spinal taps. Nobody thought to check my eyes. When you have basically a pre-existing from birth condition, you learn that there is only so much time that you can spend ignoring it before it's going to get really mad and really loud and very painful, and you have to come back to it. So that debt for me is faster. I don't recommend it to anybody, because if you do it long enough, hard enough, and with enough whatevers, because you have to have kahunas to do it for longer than a couple weeks or months, it could end up killing you as the debt. You've taken all the debt your body can handle, and it could make you no longer on this planet.
Especially, for me, it was sleepless nights, just lack of sleep, and it showed. It definitely. I have someone from my wife's side just looked at me. He's like, "Wow, Alan, you're ugly." What happened here? It's scary looking, but it just showed, and it started manifesting itself with elevated cholesterol, right? So all of a sudden, I have high cholesterol. I was eating out of gas stations, right? That was a wake-up call. Be much more judicious in what you're eating. Be much more selective. Ironically, the stuff I was selling was like natural foods, but they were snack foods. Had to get a bite somewhere during COVID. It's only junk food restaurants that were open. So it started manifesting there, and and just snowballed. I mean, it was to the point where my blood test results showed I had neither any testosterone nor any estrogen.
And what did that make you?
When you barely have the energy to drive yourself over to get a blood test, yeah, that was a problem. So it was a lot of self-care that you have to do afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, I started taking my care a lot more seriously. I train at least 3 times a week, weight train and all that stuff, eating right and everything, because you have to take care of it, all right? Otherwise, you're just going to drop dead and collapse. That was an extreme. And mentally, it definitely takes a toll on you. Mm-hmm. Mentally, I'm not reliving those dark days, okay? It's not happening.
So here is my PSA. If you are living with depression and the only thing you are eating is ramen, please remember that little packet is like 90% salt, and it will cause a death if that's the only thing you're eating. So
that's horrible. That's absolutely horrible. And speaking of depression, I was going to a doctor. It's one of those suburban doctors that treats housewives and all that stuff. She asked 3 dumb questions to try to prescribe antidepressants to you. And I said, no, I'm not going for that. I am not going for that. Take depression a little bit. My PSA is just take it more seriously. Don't just defer to one physician's, I can't even call it a prognosis, just one physician's suggestion, because you have to kind of question their motives. Is 3 questions really enough to determine whether you need an antidepressants? And it could make things worse. I think I've seen probably more people on the antidepressants that are not cured versus the ones that are cured.
Most of the mental health medications, just so people don't get the wrong idea, are not meant to cure. They are to help you become at least a tiny bit more normal. Yeah. So for me, my emotions kind of go wherever they want to when I'm not on meds. And I don't need to be doing that to people. I don't need to be crying because it's Tuesday. I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes it's stupid. You don't really know why. So yes, I am on something that kind of encapsulates them a little bit.
Right.
Perfectly fine. And it's not off of one doctor's thing. It's off of, I think it took a 1.5 years for me to get a diagnosis. So exactly. There was time. It took time and effort and people listening. So no, the first person with that first whatever the Z antidepressant is.
Anyway.
Zoloft. Yeah. I think that was my first antidepressant I was given. I was like, this isn't doing anything. Why are you giving me this?
My thing about it was, I'm here at a doctor's appointment. It's not my annual physical. I'm here for an ailment. And she would ask stuff like, she asked only 3 questions. One of them being, have you done anything fun in the last week? Okay.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So the list. I terrify more nurses by being completely honest with that list than I have ever actually gotten any help because of that list. Because I don't care. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I'm going to tell you. I'll answer those questions. And then the person leaves and the doctor comes in and they're like, you're seeing somebody for that, aren't you? And I'm like, yes. And they're like, okay, we don't have to do anything. No, you don't. You shouldn't be asking me anyway.
Yeah, well, Mike, I'm just like, this is lunacy. Like, whether I've done anything fun last week or not should not be the key determinant of if I need help.
For any the things that I've been given, the list is usually 7 to 10 questions. One of them being, are you seeing or hearing things that aren't there? Do you want to take yourself off the planet? Or do you want to take others off of the planet? Are included in the list. And so, I tell them as soon as I'm ready for my I Love Me jacket, I will let somebody know, but it is not today.
Yeah.
Which actually made my doctor's office, because they learned that I am being seen by a therapist and I'm doing the meds thing. They were like, okay, we're going to stop asking you those questions. I'm like, that's great. Now I don't have to terrify your nurses. Because they don't know what to do.
Well, they have their own motives.
I do not hear things. I do not see things that are not there. But I am actively, passively wanting to take myself off of this planet, which means I won't actively do it like by myself, but if something were to happen, I wouldn't move out of the way either.
Well, I don't know. I take a different view. It's not scientific at all, but my view is, okay, should we all be on depressants or antidepressants rather? Maybe the world has to change. Maybe the environment has to change around us. All right. All right.
Yeah. And my environment changing around me has changed a lot too. So
yeah,
there's that.
For the better, Nikki.
Yes, very much for the better. I have stepped out of some pretty bad situations, and I'm in a very good situation now. I love the person. I love my friend that I'm living with. Like, not like that, but like, we're really good friends. She helps me a lot. She is the epitome of calm. Have you ever like broken a plate and had your mom scream at you in like 6 different octaves? I have, and it's actually more terrifying than the plate breaking. I broke something around Kim, and she just kind of went, "Oh, I'll help you pick that up."
Well,
what just happened? Why are you mad? Like, what is happening? Are you messing with me? Are you gonna yell at me later? What is happening? And she was like, "No, it's fine. It was a mistake. You're great." And I'm just like,
you take it for what it is. I mean, what the plate come from the Ming Dynasty? Did you inherit it from the Habsburg Empire? Like, what is this? Like,
I mean, it was something stupid. I can't remember what it was, but it wasn't anything of wealth. But yeah, it was. Exactly. She was literally just, why would I be mad? I saw what you did. It wasn't on purpose. You're fine. Let's pick it up, and I'll get you a Band-Aid for your leg, because one of the shards had come up and hit my leg, so I was bleeding. But it was just like the complete opposite that I've ever had in my entire life with anybody. And so it was one of those moments that was like, oh wait, I can be safe around you.
What was your mom more like, a control freak?
My mom was a narcissist who was medically neglectful.
Okay. Yeah, I was just wondering if she tried to just control every little facet of life, and breaking something was not on the agenda.
You know those Corningware plates that like don't break for nothing?
Right.
I was putting one of them suckers away above my head. I was putting it in. Dude, I don't know what happened, but that thing exploded above my head. Like, exploded. My dad was standing right next to me, and he went, "What the heck?" And my mom was 10 words deep before my ear stopped ringing from the explosion. So, like, what? I did? What did I do? They're supposed to be unbreakable.
Instead of going, okay, I just paid for Gorilla Glass, it almost killed my daughter.
Like, just break this thing just broke right above your head. Is your eyes okay?
Yeah.
Did you get anything in your eye? No? Okay, fine. Let's clean it up. And my mom would scream, and she would get these foams at the side of her mouth from her. And it was, at least in my teenage years, it was so hard to be in a fight with her and not just start laughing. But I knew that was a stupid mistake to make, because I'd done that once before. So, life has its shenanigans. If you are dealing with wanting to take yourself or others off of this planet, I suggest that you go, if it's an emergency, go to the hospital. They will point you in the right direction for a nice 3-day stay to help you get back on your feet. And if you are on medications, please do not let anything we've said here today take you off of your medications, because you don't know yet if they are actually needed. That is a conversation between you and your meds doctor or your doctor. Okay? So just want to get that PSA in there before I get in trouble.
Even though I'm not qualified, I do remember what I learned in sociology class regarding suicide. And studies have indicated that usually those that commit suicide or attempt it are of the view that they're either trying to get away from something that they can't, or trying to break into something that they can't. All right. So keep that in mind. You're trying to get away from a lifestyle that looks impossibly, like insurmountably bleak, can't get away from it. So they off themselves, or it's the other way around, right? Trying to get into a group that you'll never get into, for example. If they are sort of contemplating, it might pay to examine if it's truly the case that you're trying to get away from a life that you'll never get away from, because chances are that can't be, right? That's impossible. You'd always change the environment around you.
Yeah, I didn't talk to my mom for the year before her passing. Her whole side of the family, I don't talk to them. I don't talk to two of my sisters. I have gotten rid of, at this point, the toxic people that I have been around throughout my life. And I did it. You can too.
All right. And you became better as a result.
Yeah. I'm much more relaxed. I'm around people who actually love and care about me. And that's been great for me.
Yeah. Did you ever see yourself initially in a situation that you can't get out of?
Yeah, there were a lot of different situations that I thought this is the worst it's ever going to be. I'm never going to be any better. This is the worst I'm ever going to be. It can't get any better.
And then you realize how easy
not a lot.
Things around.
Yeah, you just have to meet a new friend, talk to people. Sometimes we get so much in our head that we're not actually talking to anybody, and just talking to somebody we know of as a friend might help, because it lets all the cobwebs out when you actually talk to other people. So.
Yeah, it's true. It's a lot easier to change your environment than a lot of people think. They think that they're bound by all these social ties or family ties and everything. And it just weighs on them, right?
I can tell you that if you need to get away, walk.
Yeah.
You don't even need a car or any of that other stuff. Walk, go to a bus station, get a bus pass somewhere, new state or whatever, and just do something that's got to be better than where you were. You'll be starting over. Yes. It's going to be scary at first, but you won't have the people you had screaming in your ear that you're a dumbass or an idiot or whatever it is that they say to you. You'll have your own. I am fixed and determined to make a great life for myself, and just keep going, get a job, keep moving, and keep growing.
Yeah. Or not even abusing you, but just weighing you down. I had the same thing after my father died. 80% of the people I basically carved out of my life after that, it just shed a lot of clarity. It shed a lot of clarity that these people around, they're here to take whatever I have to offer, right?
One of my sisters is a pathological liar. The other one will ask you to borrow $20 this week, and she'd give it back next week. But first, she has to take you to an ATM, and then she needs gas money, and then she needs whatever she bought in the store paid for. And so by the time it's at an end, you've actually spent like $40 on her, but she's only going to give you that 20 back next week, if it's next week.
Yeah, if only for 20 for me. Yeah, for me, the Bank of Allen is completely closed.
Yeah.
Completely. Yep. Go to a bank, go do whatever you got to do. And if it means not being friends anymore, so be it.
Yeah. Also, my sister that likes to take money she was also the golden child. She was the one my mom like doted on and loved up on and stuff. And she was just as far up my mom's butt as you could be and still be a human being. And so when my mom died, she went nuts with you can't talk bad about her. She's dead. I went, yeah, so's Hitler. Leave me out of this. I could talk bad about anybody I need to talk bad about in your business type thing. And she ended up she disowned me and my sister and blocked us both. And then tried to come back a year later and just be like, people you may know. No, thank you. I have blocked 6 of her accounts now. You disowned me. Why do I have to talk to you?
Do you have any reason? Do you know why she tried to reestablish connection with you?
Because that's what she does. She'll stop talking to you for a while, and then she wants to slide back in because she needs money again, or she needs whatever again. And I don't have that for her anymore.
All right. For me, it's more comical. It's more like with my wife and her sister, because one's a millennial, the other's a younger millennial, and millennials like to cancel each other. So all of a sudden you say the wrong word, you say the wrong line. That's it. You're canceled.
No, that sister is my older sister, and she's the Gen X.
Yeah.
I'm just barely on the line.
Yeah.
I'm April of 81. So like, I'm like right there.
Yeah. But yeah, for me, it was just too much. I mean, especially when you think about it, as soon as they found out, okay, I have a law degree, I practice law, lawyers charge a lot of money. I mean, that's it. It was just nothing but take. Well, how about asking, okay, Alan, how are you feeling about after the funeral? How about attending the funeral? How about acknowledging that there was a funeral? All right.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
doesn't happen.
Yeah. And at some point, you just need to, you're better off. You're much more productive just carving them out of your life and moving on. And back to the point about suicide, it is that easy. It is that easy just to pick up and walk away. Right. I mean, how many domestic abuse survivors have you heard of that just walked away with nothing but the clothes on their back? And yeah, it'll be tough. It'll be a struggle, but it'll eventually work.
And if you're in a DV situation, I believe you can go to pretty much any hospital or the police station, and they will put you in a domestic violence shelter, which means that there is no contact from the outside world, and he can't get in or she can't get in, depending on that. And that way you can try to move on without that on your back.
Yeah, so sometimes it works. Sometimes, well, most of the time, I guess it works. But yeah.
Because it's actually like the first 6 months after somebody leaves a DV situation that they're most likely to be involved in a violent situation from that person finding them again. So being in a shelter that doesn't allow that person to come anywhere near. And then most of those shelters will take you to a different state or send you to a different state to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, but the point is you can change your life around, right? If there's a situation you're in, you can step away from it. If there's a situation you tried to get into and feel like it's hopeless, well, that's a different story. It depends what the situation.
Change your goal. Maybe you have to work on yourself more before that you can do that thing. Or maybe it's that you have to be realistic and you're not an Olympic swimmer.
Exactly. Like if it's only a handful of people on the planet earn one, if that's what's driving you to suicide, change your goal. So it's just the way it is. But popping pills and all that stuff, I'm so against it. I don't know. I think there's too much abuse of that happening. Try to work it out with your own lifestyle before you decide to take that kind of shortcut. It might work. It just might work.
But if you are currently on meds, don't touch anything without talking to somebody, because some of the side effects and things that can happen if you go off of a drug abruptly will not help your situation. That's the only reason why I'm saying that. Like, if you're on meds, keep taking your meds until you talk to somebody about them and see what you can step down on or whatever.
Yeah. What would you say to people that kind of lost faith in their doctors? Would you advise
It is so easy to get a different doctor. But at the same time, why have you lost faith? Is it because they haven't diagnosed you with anything? Dude, I've had a headache since 2019. 2 weeks ago, it decided to become a migraine. And so I've had a migraine every day for the last 2 weeks instead of just a headache, which absolutely sucks. And no, it has not been fully diagnosed. The medicine they have me on makes me lose words. It sucks. I would like to go off of it, but when I did that, my head pain got worse. So I'm back on it. Obviously, I am waiting to see a neurologist. But if you have a situation where you have to wait time until you can get to the specialist, there's literally nothing anybody can do. Having faith in your doctor at that point isn't a thing. My doctor is fine, but she's also not the one that needs to deal with any of this. The neurologist does, because they are the people who know about heads better than just a general physician.
All right.
If it's because your doctor is a guy and you're a female and you would rather see a female doctor, walk your happy butt up to the front desk of your doctor's office and say, hey, I'm not comfortable with a dude. Can I have a female? That goes for therapists, doctors. It doesn't matter. I have a couple of male doctors. Actually, let me rephrase that. I have one male doctor. That's my rheumatologist. He has never had to touch me in his life. So he gets to keep being my rheumatologist. And we're fine. But if you feel more comfortable with a dude instead of a female, again. So there are many ways you can be unhappy with your doctor, and it's all about trying to figure out a solution. There's just so many different solutions for whatever the different problem is. That should not be part of the reason you are thinking of leaving the planet.
Yeah, and probably make an attempt to get several opinions, get 3 opinions, see if that makes sense. try to piece
If
it
your
together.
insurance will allow it. Otherwise, paying for some things is expensive. But
Yeah, perhaps, yeah. But it's still always best to scrutinize your doctor a little bit. Just see if what they're telling you makes sense. See if it makes practical sense for you. Have them explain things a little bit better.
completely. If your problem is that your doctor talks in language that is for doctors and not for you, tell him he needs to bring a nurse in with him that can translate.
Yeah.
I've done it before because the doctor was just like, I have a college level reading and comprehension. I can comprehend a lot. When you get too far into the textbooks for medical, because I've never done that, I start to lose you. And so I've literally had to have his nurse like, can you just translate into like plain English, whatever the crap it is he just said?
I sent my wife to the head of neurology, right, in Dallas. You should see this guy. He looks like Jack Black. He talks in very plain English.
Neurologist. That's all we need.
Oh, yeah, yeah. This guy, he's very mellow, talks in plain English, and he's the chair of that department. He gets millions in grants. He's a very smart guy, but he knows how to conduct himself. He knows how to talk to patients to ease them.
Yeah.
Right?
My rheumatologist is the same way.
Exactly. He comes in all disheveled with a loose tie and very entertaining person, but by the same token, very knowledgeable, very smart. I wouldn't trade him in for the world. But he knows how to put things into plain English. And when you email him, when he responds to his email, of course, he's going to respond very intelligently. He's not going to be all like Jack Black and all that. But yeah, he'll answer questions. Won't be, if your doctor's already talking to you in a condescending tone just to get you away from them, that's sort of like a red flag, right? It's their job to explain things to you so you can make an informed decision. That's just the nature of it. Now, if you have a doctor that is not even making eye contact with you, they're focusing much more on their real estate portfolio than on you. Yeah, it's time to seek help elsewhere. Yeah,
the doctor's office has like 10 doctors in it, so you can just switch to a different one. And if you're in one of those doctor's offices and you switch to a new one, but you're getting the same treatment, go to a different doctor's office.
Yeah. Also, I want to mention that there's nothing wrong with a PA. They are knowledgeable and caring. I see a PA, they are so knowledgeable in what they do.
Yeah, I see the PA. I don't see the actual, I think there's 4 doctors, but the rest of them are PAs. I just call them doctors because it's the same thing. I'm going to the doctor's office.
Yeah, exactly. If it's something routine and they know they can handle it, they handle it. If not, they refer you elsewhere. But they kind of tell it to you how it is, and just because they're PAs doesn't make them less of a medical professional, really. I've been a lot more impressed with PAs lately than with regular doctors. Some of them have completely disappointed me. Like some of them are just like, I can't even explain to them anything. They don't want to hear anything. It's like you go to a doctor and like if your weight fluctuates by 20 to 30 pounds a month, that sends off a signal, right? Don't applaud me if I lost 20 pounds in a month. Okay. There's something
the thing is, somebody should be saying, were you trying to lose weight and are you eating?
Yeah. That wasn't asked. Okay. That was more like, like that doctor pushed more of the just selling antidepressants than anything else.
Yeah, no, I don't like those. I also don't like the ones, because I am a larger person, and they're like, oh, well, if you just lose weight, your problems would be completely different. Dude, when my headache started in 2019, I weighed 190 pounds. I am not that anymore, but I am losing weight again. But the headache is still here. So obviously, my weight had nothing to do with it.
Right. And all right, so you need to see a neurologist.
Yes.
And whatever, don't go straight to a surgeon because they love to cut.
No. I am terrified that I have a brain tumor, though, because my mom had one of them. And as this keeps getting bigger, like the pain keeps getting bigger, I'm just like, I have a brain tumor. It's growing. That's why the pain's getting bigger. And I don't have an MRI to, take me down out of the clouds. So that's being a thing.
I mean, that's a major life-changing step. Don't just go gung-ho over a surgeon.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, because some of them have primarily a surgery background. They do consulting. They're going to lean towards surgery.
This is my brain. We are not going. No, I know how you did the surgery on my mom. You're not doing that to my head. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So just the right doctor that you're compatible with.
Yeah. She came out of surgery looking like somebody punched her in the eyes.
All right, Nikki. Well,
okay. You have a great day.